Hi people, it's Sarkavist here with another vlog video, and today I'm going to be talking about three topics. The first one is going to be about the game you're seeing in the footage here, and that is Saints Row 4. Then I'm going to move on to talking about the different consoles we have at the moment and how they're doing so far in their generation. And then finally I'm going to be talking about corruption, and I think if you've been looking at gaming news at the moment, you might have an idea of what I mean by that, but I'll elaborate on that further later on. So talking about Saints Row 4, the game you're seeing on screen at the moment, this really is a great game and I do recommend it to absolutely everyone for a few reasons. First of all, it's got some really genuinely great humour, and the thing about games today is, first of all, there isn't a lot of humour, and secondly, when they do attempt it, it's usually a bit false, it doesn't feel right, but they really do get it spot on in this game. It's really good, and it's definitely worth playing through just a story, just to see it. If you don't want to play the game, then I highly recommend watching a playthrough, because it really is superb. And then you've got the gameplay, and that's why you should actually play the game. It's got lots of different variety in it. It's largely a third-person shooter, but it really does have a lot of variants, a lot of different takes on it. You've got some driving if you intend to do it, but you've also got the superpowers that come into it. You can run really fast, you can jump really high, you can shoot fire and ice and all sorts of things from your body. You're really strong. It's a bit like, I'd say the game, in terms of the superpowers it's got most in common with, would be Crackdown. You also collect these orbs that are located around the city, and as you collect them you power up. That's very similar to Crackdown. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's actually a bit strange because the city you're in, although it's been altered since Saints Row the 3rd, it's based on Saints Row the 3rd, and therefore it's built as an open world that is designed to be navigated as if you didn't have these superpowers. If you play a game like Crackdown, a prototype, the open world was clearly designed with the fact that you're superpowered in mind, but it's nice to see all the little details that would have been glossed over otherwise present, because it's based on a game that wasn't so superpowered. There's also the fact you can customise your character in great detail. I've been a little boring with my guy, I didn't want to make him look too stupid. You can also choose from different accents. You've got Nolan North, you've got a standard American guy. I went for the Cockney one, that is really great. And the thing is, not only are there multiple voices to choose from, but they're all done very well. The voice acting is pretty good. A little cheesy, sure, but it's not bad. It's not like they're saying it with really poor delivery. Each of the voices have put the time and effort in. I can't imagine too many people going with the original voice because it's like a less interesting version of Nolan North. The only weakness, if there is a weakness to Saints Row 4, is probably the graphics, and also there's a bit of a weird thing going on with the frame rate and cutscenes. I'm playing the PC version. I remember playing the 360 version the first time I did it. It's actually the last 360 game I ever played, and I do remember pretty shoddy frame rates at times, and also there was some pretty ugly screen tearing. However, that can be dealt with by enabling VSync. But the game overall I really do recommend it to everyone. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to talking about the consoles and how they're doing so far in this generation. So, beginning with the Wii U. The console has lately begun to lose some of its third-party support, and it really is beginning to evaporate altogether. But that being said, the first-party support, which has been there all the time with these Nintendo consoles, is doing very well, both in terms of the quality of the actual games and in terms of the sales it's yielding the console. After all, Mario Kart 8 managed to boost, at least in the UK, managed to boost Wii U sales by 666%, which is an impressive and somewhat suspicious number, but still very good. And you've also got, on the horizon, you've got Super Smash Bros. Wii U, and you've got Hyrule Warriors, and although Hyrule Warriors might do quite well, I think Super Smash Bros. Is really going to do the console a lot of good. Just wait for that. It's going to be another huge number. I'd say at least over 200% increase, either generally speaking or in a domain. So the Wii U, while a little weak in the third-party arena, is doing quite well in the first party. You've also got the fact it's got that gamepad, and you've got to put yourself in the position of a third-party developer. Sure, they could make their game work well with the gamepad, but if they make it too integral, then all of a sudden the other consoles are losing out, but if they make it too weak, then all of a sudden it becomes a gimmick. So the gamepad creates a bit of a conundrum for third-party developers, but when it comes to first-party, they know they don't have to worry about those other consoles, so they can utilise it in the most appropriate and sensible way they can. And then there's the Xbox One, and while I do feel a certain amount of animosity towards the console, it is doing better. There are certain things I don't like about it. I still think the name's stupid, but they're not going to change that obviously. But they have managed to tone down the Kinect, or at least how prominent it is in terms of the console integration. So you've got despite the fact they originally said it was absolutely integral to the working system of the Xbox One as a whole, they have removed it, and I think we all knew they were lying when they said that. It's not that different from the 360. You don't need the Kinect. It's just a nice little addition. Because the problem they made there originally was the fact that they forced you to buy an alternative control method, when it should have been, by all accounts, should have just been an optional purchase, like the original Kinect. That's why people, when it came to the original Kinect, while I didn't care for it, and a lot of people didn't really care for it, no one hated it because they didn't have to get it, and there were only a few games that you had to use for it, and people were generally thought it's a nice little addition, but they made it too important a part. But now they've completely rectified that, and now they're moving away from the Kinect being such an important part. And also there was a recent thing with Diablo 3 that I'd like to talk about briefly, and this was where they told Blizzard that 900p for Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls was unacceptable on the Xbox One, and that they had to make it 1080p. Okay, first of all, there is an obvious knee-jerk reaction to this to say, well, if 900p is unacceptable, why did you cheap out on the components? But that aside, at least they are now focusing on the resolution of the games. Sure, they're U-turning, but I don't actually hold anything against people for U-turning, because otherwise they can't win either way. They can't win by staying with their position, they can't win by moving to what people actually want. And that's what they're doing, they're moving towards what people want. People, for better or for worse, resolution seems to be a focal point of this generation. People really care about it, and they're taking notice of that. I've heard the frame rate has been somewhat sacrificed, but apparently it's still generally 60, with the exception of some heavy battles, but even on the PC you're going to get that. At least they're taking notice of the graphical side of things, which was something I think they were moving away from before, and they're moving back to a more hardcore focus, which is what the 360 was so brilliant for. And then there's the PlayStation 4, which I personally consider to be the purest of the new consoles, and it's selling very well. I think 10 million was the last we heard of it. From a hardware standpoint, it's proved itself extremely capable. I've just played a few games on it and they look very good. It was almost strange seeing a console game running in 1080p. I thought, whoa, am I on a PC? This is crazy. But it's very good. It's got the obvious weakness of not having too many games at the moment, but it's just come out relative to the rest of its lifespan, so it's to be expected. It's the same with the Xbox One. We've got some exclusives on the horizon to look forward to. Although we don't know a lot about Uncharted, it's Uncharted, you have to expect a lot of it. Even with some of the departures from Naughty Dog, I expect it to do very well. It's got to do. It's Uncharted. And then there's God of War. I don't think we've had an official announcement, but I'm almost certain it's coming in. I'm a massive fan of the God of War series, and I can't wait to play something on the PlayStation 4. They're really well known for their massive boss battles, and considering what the console is capable of, I can't wait to see how big they get. But it's just doing so well. It's not much to talk about because there's very little to criticise about it. So yes, that is the PlayStation 4. Okay, and so finally I'm going to be talking about corruption. And I'm not going to be mentioning any names, I'm not going to be speaking to specifics, but as I'm talking about corruption at the moment, and if you've been listening to other news stories, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. And basically what's happened, speaking very generally, is that a games developer has unethically used or exercised a certain amount of influence, shall we say, over reviewers, over people on gaming journalism sites to speak well of their game. And this has yet again highlighted the fact that the gaming industry might be a bit corrupt. And I say yet again because this keeps happening. This has happened before. I think the first time I heard and was shocked about it was the time that, I don't remember his name and I'm sorry about this, but there was this GameSpot reviewer who actually got fired because he gave Kane and Lynch a bad review, and it was sponsored by the site, so they couldn't hold him on. I thought that was so out of order. And that was the first time I was shocked by it, because I thought that is so wrong. And I think it's probably still the most outrageous instance of it happening. Gave GameSpot a very bad name, and it's the kind of thing you just don't shake. But rather than expressing my outrage at this particular instance, I'm going to keep my message very brief. and that is to be always very skeptical and very wary of everything you read and everything you hear, because you have to accept that wherever there is money to be made, there is also the potential, and I do emphasize the word potential, that there might be something working behind the scenes influencing what you're reading and hearing to try and control your opinion. While it's definitely a very good skill to learn to know when you're being tricked or you're being influenced, at the same time, don't become paranoid, because it's very easy to read every single review, watch every opinion piece, and think this guy's been influenced. You have to, with everything in life, you have to find a happy medium. You've got to learn to identify it properly. Don't just accuse everyone, because you can't blame everyone for the mistakes of the few. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video up now. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.